Bonjour, do you hear me?
Bonjour Rana, est-ce qu'on peut la voir, la régie?
Bonjour, سامعنا?
Oui, bonjour.
Bonjour.
On te voit Rana. Alors, je vais juste demander à la salle de faire des applaudissements, comme ça tu vas voir qu'ils te voient et que... Voilà. Tu entends? Voilà. Alors, je rappelle que Rana GHONEIM est Chief of Energy and Systems and Infrastructure Division à l'UNIDO et je te laisse introduire ton keynote. The floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. Merci. So, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's really my pleasure today to join you in this conference organized by the Industrie de Maroc magazine on industrial decarbonization. It's wonderful to see friends and colleagues that are gathered also in the audience, and I hope that in the next conference I'll be there with you in person. I have to actually also congratulate Morocco for convening this dialogue, because the dialogue on industrial decarbonization has so far been very centered on developed countries and the narratives that we need there. So it's great to see Morocco as one of the leading countries that are really putting a spotlight on industrial decarbonization. It actually speaks as well to the leadership and strategy that Morocco has, and its understanding of global markets and the need for decarbonization efforts to accelerate global markets. The event today is held also at a pivotal moment when we know that the world is facing an urgency for accelerating the energy transition, because there's an energy security and energy pricing problem. There's an economic crisis with inflation and stagnation. There's also all the challenges that we face with extreme weather conditions and floods and heat strikes all across the globe because of climate change. So these three conditions, in a way, are really putting us on a more pressure to really move towards more concerted action to move at a higher speed as well at a higher scale. So essentially to do more and to do that faster. And this is primarily to meet the demands of different countries, regions, and citizens, and bring industrial decarbonization to the landscape. Now, I would like to start off with, some figures maybe to give you also some context on which sectors particularly matter when it comes to industrial decarbonization. So what we know is from data that is available globally is that there are 5 industrial sectors that account for 70% of the total industrial emissions. These sectors are steel, chemicals, cement and concrete, aluminum, and of course, refining. Now, if we want to take even a deeper look into 2 of these sectors, like steel and cement and concrete, we know that actually they account for 14 to 16% of the global energy-related emissions. So these are really big opportunities, if you like, for us. If we want to make it right with regards to our climate goals, we really need to put more emphasis on these sectors. And we need to look at closer in Morocco, what are these sectors? So it might not be necessarily, and that point was raised that is very much a case-specific issue. So we need to look at data in Morocco and see which of these sectors, but this is sort of a global picture that I'm sharing with you here today. Now, if we want to make our climate goals and also sustainable development goals, if we want to ensure that we are meeting them, I would like to dig deeper a bit into 3 topics in relation to decarbonization of these sectors. And the first one is technology. And we heard already from the opening remarks the great efforts that Morocco has on hydrogen, on solar, on energy efficiency. Yes, the decarbonization pathway includes all of these. So it starts off with our energy efficiency comes first. We have to really make sure that we are directing our energy where it's needed and to the extent possible save that energy, because it affects also the sizing of our systems and all that. Now, the key challenge with regards to the technologies available today for decarbonization of these sectors is that the technologies that we have today are 2 categories. One is technologies that are not yet fully commercialized. So, for example, the use of hydrogen or in steel making or CCUS in cement making. The examples that we see at the moment are just basically demos. They are not yet at full commercial scale. And if we want to meet still our climate goals, we need to have 100 steel plants built by 2030. We need to have 20 cement plants built by 2030 as well. And so where are we today? We are still at the stage where we see that these technologies have not yet been implemented at commercial scale. So this speaks to the humongous effort that we all need to work together on to really bring us to this decarbonization. The second challenge with regards to technology is that, we know that energy efficiency works. We know that there's like bioenergy and there are also some applications for electrified boilers, but we need to invest a lot more in innovation to bring new technologies that can support this decarbonization effort. Because today, the technologies that we have can only bring us to half the emission reductions that we need actually for meeting the Paris Agreement. So, essentially, how do we tackle this? How do we really move towards the commercialization of these technologies? This is where the role of the second element that I wanted to speak about today, the policies, comes in. Because although these technologies are very expensive, I just like to give here a ballpark figure. For example, for the first steel making operation that is at the moment there are two companies that are really working hard on making that plant. We're talking about $2 to $3 billion that would be put into an investment in one single plant. And that is a sizable investment, of course, for any company to think of. So for the companies to take that move, they need to see that there is already some demand and some stability in the market requiring the products that they are producing. And this is where the role of both the government as well as the private sector comes in creating that demand. Because although it's 2 to 3 billion investment per pilot, at the end of the day, if you look at the incremental cost, that is the difference, or the green premium, if you like, that is coming on the product, at the end of the day, that is actually minimal. So just to give you an example, it's about 2,000 to 3,000 euros on a household that is built in Europe. So if an average household in Europe costs €500,000, if we go for the green product, it would be around 2,000 to 3,000 difference. So it's really not a lot. Looking at it from that perspective. And this is where the role of government, the role of private sector, and even our role as citizens comes in to really be more aware about that, and also to be putting the right incentives in place. So this is where we see a big role and a critical role for policies like green procurement, where governments already make certain pledges to buy green steel or green cement or even green chemicals and so on. So similarly, there are also companies. I know automotive industry is quite critical in Morocco, particularly for the export market. In fact, the first company that has signed up for the green steel is Volvo in Sweden. So this also shows us what kind of collaborations can be promoted between the technology providers, the manufacturers of the steel, as well as the companies that require that as a product into their production, such as the automotive industry. So essentially, we see a lot of companies as well coming on board and starting to make announcements on their will to buy the green products if they are available in the market. And that is a very positive sign, because for the manufacturer who's making these investments, this is kind of a reassurance that at the end of the day, there is a significant and sufficient demand for their products. Now, also policy-wise, because if we as governments, as private sector start to procure green, essentially, how does what I am procuring compare with another country, with a third country? This is where we need to reinforce also better standards for these products, to look at what defines basically what a green product is, and how do we account for the embodied carbon that is included in these products, and how do we ensure that such policies create the right demand for the technology. So if we want to really promote more hydrogen or CCUS or energy efficiency, how do we ensure that these policy mechanisms really create this pull effect for the technologies that we desire? The third point, and which is essential, and I think there was some talk as well on green financing. For sure, financing is an issue, and I will not try to tackle it here because, as I say, there are huge investments. So I would rather focus on the policy and one third element, which is the data. And that is critical. And I know that at the moment, actually, in the audience, some of my colleagues that are working on the industrial analytics platform are actually exploring how we can better support with this data. Because essentially, it's great if we implement technologies. It's great if we have the capacity to really support industries in implementing those. But at the end of the day, if we don't have a system in place that helps in accounting for the embodied carbon in these products, and also proving that at the end of the day, this product has so much embodied carbon in it. So if we don't prepare the whole data framework at the country level to collect this data, to verify that this data is accurate, and then to certify that at the end of the day, this is a product that meets a certain standard of embodied carbon that is in the product, then we will be prevented from accessing international markets. We will not be able to measure whether we have really procured the right product or not, and so on and so forth. So just to say, we really need to invest a lot more at the national level in data systems and data frameworks that help us also in measuring and verifying the embodied carbon that is included in a certain product. So just to say now, I'd like to leave you actually with these kind of three thoughts on technology, that all technologies are on the table. We really need to work closer on technology collaboration between different players in industry, between developed and developing countries. So that's the type of technology collaboration that we want to foster. Policies, setting the incentives right and putting the right incentive in place. And in fact, that we as citizens, as governments, as private sector, we have actually the ability to help in shaping these markets and creating demand for them. And finally, that if we cannot really provide a system that helps us in measuring the embodied carbon and verifying that this product is actually green, that this is an underlying factor for success. We have listened to the request of His Excellency Minister Mazur, who has requested UNIDO to work on developing an industrial decarbonization roadmap that we are about to start working on with the government of Morocco. We are very excited to work on that and to really see and determine at the end of the day, what are the sectors that we want to focus on, which pathway, technology or policy pathway we would follow, and at what costs. So I would like to invite you all to contribute to our upcoming discussions on industrial decarbonization and help shape the industrial decarbonization roadmap that we will be working on with the government of Morocco. Thank you again for inviting me, and I really wish that next time we'll be there in person and I get a chance to interact with all of you in person. Thank you.
Rana GHONEIM, thank you. Alors, Rana GHONEIM qui nous a permis tout simplement de surfer sur plusieurs sujets, le benchmark international, les trois déterminants qui sont la technologie, l'innovation, les politiques où tout le monde devra être contributeur, les politiques, les gouvernements, les citoyens, les acteurs de la société civile, le secteur privé, le secteur public, et justement cette main tendue pour pouvoir travailler sur ce qui vient d'être prononcé par Monsieur le Ministre, le travail collaboratif entre à la fois l'ONUDI et le ministère du Commerce et de l'Industrie et le ministère de la Transition énergétique. En tous les cas, encore une fois, merci Rana GHONEIM. Alors,